Go ahead, Lloyd.
In regards to the Stratford Institute, it's perceived by most people in the city that it was owned or part of the University of Waterloo and not a privately owned enterprise. Having said that, since the public or the people within the city donated $5 million to the Stratford Institute, to a director of the company who used a bogus name, how do we find out where our money went?
Did everyone hear the question? Is it, Lloyd is asking about the Stratford Institute. He's asking about the money trail for the Institute. And Lawrence, would you like to respond to that?
The city is obligated to account because the Stratford Institute is a private company. I suppose they could argue that you don't have a right to ask them. But because there's a question of tax funds, and the Institute was founded by the mayor, he should just stand up and answer the question. If he doesn't, find another mayor.
Is that sufficient, Lloyd?
Who doesn't answer to the general public of the city where our $5 million went?
Repeating the question.
I don't know. That's the point. I can tell you that as part of our discovery process for the valuation under the expropriation, the issue now of what did they take the land for is going to be front and center. So over the long haul, if we don't resolve the issues, then I can ask our lawyers to dig into the accounting, which I'm sure they will. But from a taxpayer's perspective, go to the council, put the question in, take enough of you and say we want a full accounting and we want to know where the money went. Because there's a difference between saying it went to the institute or went to the university. They should be able to say, you wrote or obligated to pay over this $5 million or 10. Just get a list of the canceled checks. It's either there or it isn't. But it's something they must answer.
Lawrence, for your information, I wrote a letter to both newspapers, letter to the editor, 2 weeks ago requesting exactly that, and requesting that they publish the letter and find out why one of the directors needed to use a bogus name. None of the newspapers will print the letter.
Lloyd said that he has written a letter a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago, asking these very questions, a letter to the editor,
Yes.
to both the Stratford Gazette and to the Beacon Herald, I understand that. And neither of the papers have chosen to publish the letter.
Well, one of the papers is here tonight in the radio station, and you did give me a copy of this, so if you want, I'll give it to them and ask them if they can print it, and in the meantime, I can undertake to put it up on my website so that everybody can see it.
Supplemental, Lloyd? Okay. Any other questions? John?
Very simple question, Mr. Chair. You made a reference, Lawrence, to Section 41, and Section 41 of what?
In Section 42.
The Expropriations Act, and it was Section 41 and 42, they both deal with the return of lands under certain circumstances. And if it helps, I have some letters that were sent to the city from our lawyers. It was done publicly, and it talks about the difficulty we're having getting them to the table and deals with that specific issue. I'll make sure that they're uploaded on the website so you can read them.
Further questions? Sandy?
I just want to make
There's the microphone right over there, Cheryl.
sure.
pass it across.
I just want to make sure I understand it properly. The money that was given to the Stratford Institute, was that money from OpenText? Or was the money from OpenText given to the university?
The paperwork that I have says that OpenText gave the money to the Institute.
Yes. Could you give your name, please? And
My name is Kathy Vasilakos. I wanted to make a clarification about the quote that was used that I had. When I was quoted at the Chamber of Commerce, my quote about the biggest and the baddest was, and it was followed by the Cooper said it's a cautionary tale on brownfield redevelopment, and that what the city needs is a plan for how to approach all brownfield and vacant lots, so that we don't repeat this exercise again. And so, in context of that, when Mr. Ryan called me and asked me, that he said that he did make the assumption that I was talking about, and I clarified with him that I wasn't talking, that my quote in the paper and at the Chamber of Commerce debate was about planning around brownfield and vacant lots. It was around the city creating a plan. We did discuss the environment during the conversation, and in terms of that a lot of it was soil testing in the groundwater, but there were other legates came from means that would also have to be remediated. But the original quote of biggest and baddest was either preceded or followed by a cautionary tale on how we need to plan so we don't repeat this exercise. And the comment encompassed the entirety of what has happened with the Cooper site, and not just specifically the environmental aspect. So I just wanted a clarification, because it seemed that my quote was then used to talk about the environment when I had clarified that it was about brownfield redevelopment in general and planning around it. Thank you.
Well, that's actually quite appreciated, because you're right. Part of that plan should be that when, as with the Green Municipal Fund grant, it should be all the reports are made public so that people can read them as they're made, so that they can have some input into understanding of what the consultants are saying about any particular site, not just the Cooper site.
another question? Way back at the back. Oh, Jessica, first of all. What is your name, sir?
My name's Larry Lovell. I just am a little confused as to exact legal position that we're in right now. Have you made an appeal to the OMB board directly? Is it in the process of being put together? Is there a date on that? And have your lawyers put in a lawsuit against the city, or is one pending right now for any amounts that you've discussed tonight? Or is this something that you plan on doing? Thank you.
Well, there is no appeal at the OMB. There is simply, pursuant to the minutes of settlement, the right to go to the OMB to determine the value that has to be paid for the property and the damages for the lost project. To that end, on August the 2nd, 2013, after being at the OMB, the city originally said, we don't like the way Mr. Ryan worded his claim, because he's including the disputed lands, that St. Patrick Street parking lot. They preferred to argue this in two courts. So while we agreed that we would do either one, it's more costly to argue in two courts. So we left it up to the OMB to decide, and there was an issue over jurisdiction. So what the OMB did was said, we're going to scrap the first document and make you change it to two documents. And so on August the 2nd, this valuation claim was served on the city and provided to the OMB, and this is the document and the trial or hearing that will take place to determine what the city or the citizens have to pay. That's the document that breaks down all the numbers and comes up with $79 million. On October the 4th, 2013, the city filed a reply. So this just simply goes ahead. There's no appeal, there's no decision yet. What we've been talking about tonight is there's two ways of dealing with this claim. As many of the candidates said, let's just cut to the chase and get rid of this. You can't do that unless you sit and talk with me. So since the council of the day doesn't want to do that, Wendy and I are making it clear that we're here to answer your questions, and if you want to meet with us, fine. If you don't, we'll do it this way, because that's what we said we would do in the minutes of settlement. As far as the other litigation, there isn't anything that we have to do. The city sued us, and they sued us in saying, we own the parking lot, not you. That's their claim. Now, they can abandon that claim, and then we've already agreed in the minutes of settlement to get paid for that land by the expropriation as well. So that's where it stands.
And any further questions? Way at the back, Jessica. What is your name, sir?
Rio Thompson from the city of Stratford. Mr. Ryan, are you at liberty to say what this has cost you legally up to this point?
Millions. As to the exact number, I'm pretty sure that Gallings, who represent Wendy and I, would ask us not to say the exact numbers, but I can tell you that we filed public material on some of the consultants' costs, and we filed it with the OMB, and there was an argument about an interpayment for those costs, and it was sort of, I won't say pass the buck, but what they said was not at this time, we need more information. We put in the bills, everything. So I'll upload that material on the website so you can see what the consultants are costing. But as far as Gowling's bill, that's something that they present at the appropriate time. And I can just tell you it's substantial.
So the city's cost would be substantial too, based on what you're paying.
Oh yeah.
Second question is, you speak about a citizens committee getting together to speak. Many citizens committees have spoke to council in the past, they haven't listened. Do you think there'll be anything different this time around?
Bring a few thousand. It'll make a difference.
Is that cash?
Do you hear that? Elector Larry LaBelle?
Any further questions? Yes, back up to Lloyd here, Jessica. Just a minute, Lloyd, until she's coming with the microphone, if you wouldn't mind. Go ahead.
Lawrence, if I understood you, under the Expropriations Act, the reason the land was expropriated was for the university. And you say now that the university is not using it, or the city is not giving it to the university for that purpose, and under the Expropriation Act, it automatically reverts back to you. Beyond that, should the city use the land for the reason given on the expropriation for 10 years or 15 years, and down the road 15 years later, not use the land for that purpose, as long as your lumber company was still there, whether it was in your name or in your next of kin or whoever, that any time in the next beyond many years that the land is not used for the purpose of expropriation, it goes back to you. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes. That's why I said it was on forever.
Any more questions? Well, thanks for coming.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh.
There's an email address on the business cards that we put out. So if somebody has a question, I did agree to come back, but there's a lot of people that would likely see this video on the website. And if I just want them to know that if you just want to send us an email question, we'll do our best. You just have to say who you are. So we don't have to wait for another town hall meeting to get it started.
Oh, I noticed something I have out here. I made a report on August the 11th to the Finance Subcommittee, and Lawrence has made reference to the city's answer to his minutes of settlement. And it's 36 pages, I think, isn't it?
Something.
And I have an interest in the building as a heritage person. And in case you weren't there, there's a couple of quotes from the city's defense, or the city's perspective. The first one is, I quote, "The existing building has no prospect for further use. It is not likely that reuse or restoration is technically or financially viable. The building is an impediment to the development of the site." If you're a citizen of Stratford, that's our defense. "Given the sheer size of the building, the adaptive reuse of the structure is not a realistic possibility." And thirdly, "The city pleads that the fair market value of the expropriated lands, as at the validation date, was $290,000. That's where the city's lawyers are starting. Thank you to Lawrence, and to Wendy, and to Jessica, and to the other kids, and I think you've got 6 grandchildren in total.
So far.
Thanks for coming, and I'm sure that Lawrence will be here for a couple of minutes if you want to ask him any other questions on one-on-one. Have a good evening. Safe home.